You step out of your time machine in 1850, take a deep breath of that crisp pre-industrial air, and within days you're fighting for your life against diseases your modern immune system has never encountered. Not because you brought a weapon or changed some pivotal event, but because your 21st century body is completely unprepared for the biological reality of the past. Every single person who thinks time travel would be fun is missing the part where you become a walking biological disaster waiting to happen. Let's start with what would actually happen to you, physically, biologically, if you somehow managed to travel backward in time. Forget the grandfather paradox for a moment. Forget changing history. The first thing that would try to kill you isn't some logical contradiction. It's your own body's violent reaction to being somewhere it was never supposed to exist. Here's what most people don't realize. You're not just you, you're a walking ecosystem. Right now, as you're listening to this, you're carrying around roughly 38 trillion bacterial cells. Recent research suggests you actually have slightly more bacterial cells than human cells. Your body is literally more microbe than human by cell count. Your mouth alone contains over 700 different species of microbes. Your gut hosts hundreds of species more. Your skin is covered in a microscopic zoo that would make a rainforest jealous. Most of these microorganisms are either helpful or harmless to you. They help you digest food, they crowd out dangerous pathogens, they even produce vitamins your body needs. You've been living with this particular collection of microbes your entire life. Your immune system knows them. They know your immune system. It's a carefully negotiated peace treaty that took years to establish. But here's the thing, this microscopic ecosystem reflects our modern world. The bacteria in your gut have been shaped by processed foods, antibiotics, and sanitation systems. The viruses you carry, often completely harmlessly, include strains that have evolved relatively recently, adapting to modern conditions over years or decades. Now imagine dropping this 21st century biological package into, say, 1347, right at the start of the Black Death. What do you think happens? Think of your body as a smartphone trying to connect to a network from 1850. The protocols don't match. The signals are incompatible, except instead of just getting no service, your phone starts electrocuting everyone around it. When you arrive in the past, 3 biological disasters start happening at the exact same time. And I mean the exact same time, as in the moment you take your first breath. First, pathogen shock. The air you're breathing contains bacteria, viruses, and parasites that your immune system has never encountered. You've been vaccinated against many diseases that were common killers in the past, but that protection is specific to particular strains. Meanwhile, your immune system has been shaped by exposure to completely different pathogens. It's like sending a cybersecurity expert from 2024 to defend against 1850s bank robbers. They know everything about digital threats and nothing about guys with dynamite and horses. Historical diseases that were endemic in 1850 would pose serious threats to you. People in the past who survived to adulthood had typically been exposed to these pathogens as children and developed some immunity through that exposure. Your immune system, shaped by modern sanitation and vaccination schedules, lacks that historical pathogen exposure entirely. Your body might overreact to unfamiliar pathogens and trigger what's called a cytokine storm, where your defense system becomes so aggressive it starts destroying your own tissues. But here's where it gets really bad. While you're busy fighting off 19th century diseases, disaster number 2 is already underway. You're spreading microorganisms that are fundamentally different from what existed in that time period. Every breath you exhale contains microscopic droplets carrying modern bacteria and viruses. Every surface you touch becomes contaminated with microorganisms shaped by our contemporary world. And the people around you, they have no immunity to any of it. None. It would be like exposing isolated tribes to smallpox, except these are microbes that have been shaped by completely different environmental pressures. Here's a concrete example. You almost certainly carry strains of influenza that have evolved through decades of what scientists call antigenic drift, the process where flu viruses gradually mutate to evade our immune systems. Drop a 2024 flu strain into 1850, and it's not just a bad flu season, it's potentially a devastating pandemic. The 1918 flu pandemic killed 50 million people, and that was a naturally occurring strain that the population had some evolutionary preparation for. And then there's disaster number 3, antibiotic resistance. Many of the bacteria you carry have been exposed to antibiotics, even if you haven't taken them recently. They've developed resistance mechanisms that simply didn't exist in the past. When these bacteria start spreading in an era with no antibiotics at all, they don't just cause infections, they cause unstoppable infections. Imagine trying to explain to a 19th century doctor that the strange new disease you've introduced requires a medicine that won't be invented for another 80 years, and even then, your bacteria have already figured out how to defeat it. But let's say you somehow survived the initial biological shock. Maybe you traveled back just 50 years instead of 200. Maybe you got lucky. You still have to deal with the fact that your body is fundamentally adapted to a world that doesn't exist yet. Your bones, for instance, are probably weaker than you think. If you've spent significant time indoors under artificial lighting, you likely have lower vitamin D levels than people who lived before electric lights. Your bone density might be lower than someone from an era when physical labor was the norm. A fall that might bruise a 19th century farmer could fracture your modern office worker bones. Your eyesight is almost certainly worse. Myopia rates have skyrocketed in the past century, largely due to spending time indoors and focusing on close-up work. In 1850, severe nearsightedness was rare. You might find yourself functionally blind in an era before corrective lenses were widely available. Your digestive system is adapted to processed foods, preservatives, and a level of food safety that didn't exist in the past. The bread in 1850 was often contaminated with ergot, a fungus that causes hallucinations, convulsions, and death. The water supplies were contaminated with cholera, typhoid, and dysentery. Your modern gut, used to sanitize everything, might not be able to handle what people in the past considered normal food and water. And here's something really weird. Your circadian rhythms are probably wrong. Before electric lighting, people's sleep cycles were closely tied to sunrise and sunset. Your body, used to staying up under artificial lights and waking up to alarm clocks, might struggle to adapt to natural light cycles. This isn't just inconvenient. Disrupted circadian rhythms affect everything from your immune system to your mental health. But the strangest part might be the psychological effects. You've been shaped by a world of constant stimulation, screens, sounds, information overload. Drop into the sensory environment of the past, and your brain might not know what to do with the silence. Some researchers think our modern brains are actually wired differently than they were even 50 years ago, adapted to rapid task switching and constant partial attention. In a slower-paced era, you might experience something like withdrawal symptoms. Then there's the social dimension. You speak a version of English that includes thousands of words that didn't exist in the past. Your accent, your mannerisms, your unconscious assumptions about how the world works, all of it would mark you as profoundly foreign. Even if you tried to blend in, your body language would give you away. The way you stand, the way you make eye contact, the way you react to authority, all of it has been shaped by a democratic, individualistic culture that was radically different in the past. So why does any of this matter? You're probably not planning to time travel anytime soon. But understanding what would really happen to a time traveler tells us something profound about how much we've changed as a species and how much our environment has changed us. Every single adaptation your body has made to modern life represents a trade-off. Your immune system is incredibly sophisticated at fighting off the diseases of 2024, but it might be helpless against the diseases of 1850. Your brain is amazing at processing information from multiple screens simultaneously, but it might struggle with the sustained focus that was normal for our ancestors. This matters for how we think about our own health and resilience. We often assume that medical advances have made us universally healthier and stronger than people in the past. But the time travel thought experiment reveals that we've become adapted to a very specific environment. In some ways, we might actually be more fragile than our ancestors. It also matters for how we think about global health and disease prevention. The reason a time traveler would be such a biological disaster isn't just because of the time gap. It's because of isolation. Populations that have been separated develop different immune profiles, different resistance patterns, different vulnerabilities. This is why new diseases are often so devastating when they jump between populations that haven't been in contact. And it matters for how we prepare for the future. If our bodies are this adapted to the specific conditions of 2024, what happens as those conditions continue to change? Climate change, new pathogens, changes in food systems, new technologies. All of these will continue to shape our biology in ways we can't predict. The time traveler's dilemma is really our dilemma. How do we maintain our health and resilience in a world that's changing faster than our bodies can adapt? So here's what would actually happen if you traveled backward in time. You'd probably die quickly and horribly, but not before potentially causing serious biological disruption. You wouldn't need to step on a butterfly to change the course of events. Just breathing would be enough. The real lesson isn't about time travel, it's about how profoundly we've been shaped by our moment in history. Your body is a walking museum of 21st century adaptations, and like any museum piece, it belongs in a very specific time and place. The past isn't just a foreign country, it's a foreign planet, and you're not equipped to survive there. Which, when you think about it, makes the present moment pretty extraordinary. You exist in the one time and place in all of history where your particular biological configuration can thrive. That's not science fiction. That's just the strange reality of being human right now.